But you see them walking down, taking up the sidewalk, acting like they can whip everybody. Sure, they can whip somebody who looks just like them, because that's permitted. Permitted by whom? The white supremacists. They don't care. Kill everybody in the neighborhood. So what? There's another black neighborhood gone. There's another one down the street, ready to go. What's the big deal? You better be careful about whose face you get into when you get carried away with what you can do to other black people. And what's pitiful about it is most of us know that. Very few of us don't know that. We know whose face to get into. And we know just about how much backing we have.
Shame. Shame.
Black person in handcuffs. All kinds of tattoos. All kinds of long record for being able to whip everybody since 9th grade. Standing there in handcuffs in an orange jumpsuit in his best hairdo saying, "Yes, Your Honor." Why don't you use the kind of language toward Your Honor that you use with the people that you encounter right there in your neighborhood? The one that you say that you're a master over. The one that you can terrorize. All the females flocking to you and halfway scared of you. Knock them around all over the place. Call them all kind of names. Why don't you call Your Honor that same name? Snatch him from behind the bench. No. See, we're great show people. Greatest show people on earth. 3 9mm, one in your sock, one in your waistband, one in your side pocket. Ready to take on the entire world in a movie. In a homemade video. Or passing a bus stop full of black people fixing to go to work. Or you can terrorize them. Why don't you take on the champ? Which usually is just 1 or 2 white supremacists who just come and say, "Now, I think you'd better behave because you're disturbing my peace. Now, if you don't think I can handle you, try me." And I haven't been on this planet forever, but I've never seen a situation on a large scale, or never heard of one on a large scale, of any significance throughout the history of the black male, because that's who I'm talking about, who didn't chicken out in a moment of real crisis. So I don't want to hear it in this stalwart Black History Month about that all-powerful black male, because I've seen our record, particularly in the last, I'll say, just in this area of the world, 60 years. And we've had a few who did things the way that they ought to be done. They protested in the street. They carried signs. They talked about non-justice. Martin Luther King, people like that. Fannie Lou Hamer, as a black female, backing up black males who got out there and tried to do something that made sense, rather than just terrorize the neighbors. And that's doing what we're supposed to do from the weak position that we have. Only time we show all this bravery is when we are mistreating are the victims of racism. For the most part, some exceptions. Nelson Mandela, exception. Martin Luther King, exception. Malcolm X, exception. A substantial list, but well-spaced. Well-spaced. All those black males in between, usually the ones who are doing hard time, if you look at what they are charged with, most of it is mistreating, whether they're guilty or not, but most of it is for mistreating other prisoners of war, the race war, people that look like themselves, can't stand themselves and want to kill everything that looks like them and laugh about it and call it an accomplishment. Now, I harp on this because this is one thing that should be real passe. As they say in the hip-hop culture, I think they call it whack. That's really whack. I think that's what they call it. Makes no sense at all and has been embraced in every generation. Didn't just start. As far back as I can remember. Black male carrying the Saturday night razor. I'm going to cut me somebody before the night's over. Oh, yeah. Who are you going to cut? Who are you going to cut, Jimmy? Who are you going to cut, Mac? Well, I'm going over to the dance hall. Who's in the dance hall, Mac? I'm going to cut me somebody who breaks bad over at the dance hall. Who is it that's going to break bad in the dance hall, Mac? Somebody that looks like me. Somebody I probably went to school with before I dropped out, and they dropped out. So we meet up 18 years later, and we slash each other to death in the alley. And that's supposed to be a big deal and the purpose for being on the planet. Now, there are millions of black people who think just like that. And they are not all just in this area of the world. They are south of here, in places like Brazil. They look forward to that kind of foolishness. It's an old black tradition while we're talking about black history. That's a huge part of black culture. It needs to stop, and it needs to stop as of tonight. We need to do some thinking and just say enough of that. Been there, done that. Forget it. No more gang tattoos. I mean, who are we fooling? Who can we really whip? A very limited number of people. And certainly nobody who is smarter and more powerful than we are, particularly somebody who is really an army. A system of white supremacy. You know anything about taking that on? No, nothing, zero. Better start tap dancing.
After all, we are not communists.
I also don't believe in drugs. For years, I paid my people extra so they wouldn't do that kind of business. Somebody comes to them and says, I have powders. If you put up $3,000, $4,000 investment, we can make $50,000 distributing. So they can't resist. I want to control it as a business, to keep it respectable. I don't want it near schools. I don't want it sold to children. That's an infamia. In my city, we would keep the traffic in the dark, people, the colored. They're animals anyway, so let them lose their souls.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to CRWS, a attempted counter-racist business meeting on Kyrie and Harrow's race code war, the power of images, words, and symbols on the Black psyche. Today we're covering pages the end of chapter 5, which ends on page 288. So we're going from 275 to 288. And the first two clips that I played are really significant to this discussion. We have Neely Fuller Jr. Everyone should go to producejustice.com and acquire their copy of Neely Fuller Jr.'s code book. So the first clip we saw Neely Fuller discussing what has been done to the Black male, how the Black male has been conditioned to pretend to be a so-called gangbanger, pretend to be tough in the streets. And then we have the next clip from The Godfather with suspected racists, the real gangsters, the real gangbangers, the true gangs. So Kyrie and Harold is going to echo a lot of what was presented in these two clips. So that being said, I am going to read a bit from the text, very, very significant. And I just have those images in mind as I read. And you might not even have to see the clip I played, just any rap video, any sort of Black culture, film, poetic justice, anything like that. A lot of what's being read here should echo the programming you've received. So it's from 278. The symbols of seduction. Youth are seduced into this gangster lifestyle through the symbols of wealth, power, sex, invincibility, virility, freedom, arrogance, and lack of strong male guidance, stable families, unified and developed communities, moral foundations and principles, lack of power in Black community, and lack of an understanding of white supremacy. Black children are easy prey for white supremacist influence in children. And read that again. Black children are easy prey for white supremacist influence and direction. The name of the setup and or operation is called gangster or gangbanging. The symbols of a setup include caches of jewelry, the bandana headscarf, earring, cell phones, droopy pants, cap turned backwards, rap music, the 40-ounce liquor, gold, silver, ring, gold chains, money, and flashing cash, palatial homes, jet planes, shiny cars, the gun sometimes known as an Uzi or a Glock 9, and the most powerful weapon of all, words. All of these items are produced for and targeted purposely towards Black people. So this is super important because he's literally telling us and explaining to us that the children, Black children, are literally being programmed into people classified as Black who will want to kill each other. I know this information maybe already well known, but the significance of it is very tragic, because we have either just normalized Black people killing Black people so much, or as Kyrie and Harold states in the pages we read, that Black existence, Black people are just so, they have absolutely no value. So no racial classifications care about Black people being eliminated in large numbers, especially if it's Black people killing other Black people. It has actually been embedded into so-called Black culture. The average person possibly thinks Black people killing Black people in gang violence is part of so-called Black culture. And it is, because culture is what we do. Culture is simply what people do, and tragically enough, terroristically enough, white people have conditioned us to want to harm each other because we do not know how to face white supremacy, racism. And I'm going to pause there before I continue on my notes to see if the panel would like to share their notes, chime in.
Yes, for me, all the things that you mentioned, about the Uzis, the chains, all the things that symbolize gang culture, I guess, that are taught to Black people. I think another important thing is that white people, they are racist man, racist woman, and even racist child, they all make great amounts of money off of all of these things that they program, condition Black people to enjoy and take part in. You know, even while they're buying the Black people don't make Uzis, Black people don't make chains, Black people don't make jewelry. Even after, you know, the Black person has lost all of that, then the Black person will find themselves in jail. The victim of racism will find themselves in prison, incarcerated. White people are making even more money off of it, and therefore solidifying their power even more, getting more money, industries getting bigger, etc. So I thought that was something to add to that point as well. That all of these activities that Black people find themselves engaging in so-called gang culture, the racist white supremacist is the biggest winner from it, always and forever, as long as Black people are too confused, pathetic, and pitiful to stop the destructive behaviors and the degrading behaviors that they engage in.
And then just to add to that, as well as white people profiting off of gang behavior, I think it's very important to add that this behavior is destructive to their own communities, to the people, like especially while they're shooting and killing each other with guns. And on page 276, it says they're involved in distributing quantities of destructive drugs in their own communities to their own people while shooting, maiming, and killing each other with guns that do not manufacture. They prey on helpless, defenseless people. They do not fight armed and well-organized people. They're engaged in insane activities that help to destroy the lives of their own people, many of whom are their mothers, sisters, and brothers. So I found that to be something that stands out, especially when you have shows that are very popular. One I think of right now is Snowfall. I've watched a few episodes of Snowfall, and it's just one of those things where it fits right into this section that we're reading, because almost, while you're pulling it up, almost when you think of a show like Snowfall, those who are in gang related can relate to that show, because that's almost showing the intricate parts of being in a gang. I think the only difference is that in Snowfall, obviously they they acquire tons of money due to working with the CIA and so on. So it's just some of those things that it's in the show. It's almost many people in this group, not just like, oh, it's just a Black community, they're Black gangbangers who are destroying the communities, but obviously they have white people who are backing them to help. It may not be seen that way due to everyone saying like, oh, gang related leads to prison or incarceration and all of these things. But as Kwaku mentioned earlier, it's almost like a win-win for them. They fund these gang individuals with guns, drugs, etc. And then they say, hey, actually, I'm going to incarcerate you because this is illegal behavior. And then they continuously make money off this individual. And also knowing about like incarceration, they say like once someone is released, they almost have this cycle of continuously going back to the way they lived or going back to prison. So it's like they almost have them in this loophole of profit, where they're profiting off of individuals who are in this so-called gang or participate in these behaviors.
Yeah, and to add, like he mentioned, Black people, being victims of racism are being heavily conditioned. These are one of many shows now that show Black people, not Black people, well, Black people, but it glorifies this gang lifestyle. You mentioned Snowfall, another show that I've seen is called Top Boy, and both of those shows really glorify gang life, gang activity, gang violence. Um, in both of these shows, we see that the main characters are Black, and like he mentioned in the book, I can't remember the exact page, but the black males who engage in these activities believe they're invincible, and that's the kind of behavior that you see in these shows from these Black males, the Black male characters. They believe that they're invincible. White people create these shows, these images, and package it, sell it to Black people, showing that these Black males who are engaged in gang activity are invincible. So black males believe that they're invincible and they can't be touched, and it's like they believe that the reward of being able to avoid dying is the greatest thing of all. It will be the greatest reward. If you don't die, if you're invincible, you'll get to reap all the benefits, right? And one thing that's interesting about this show, Top Boy, is that they do sell drugs, but the show doesn't really show them selling drugs often. There's a few scenes where they're selling drugs, and in my opinion, what seems to be to white people, the majority of the time is them killing each other, killing other Black people in the show. So they're mainly fighting over like territory and resources with other Black people who want to control the drug trade. Whereas, there's a few scenes here and there of, what appear to be like homeless white people getting drugs. But I think the biggest thing is, this gang war, this gang life activity that is constantly being shown and perpetuated as as the opportunity for Black people to make something of themselves. He talks about in the book about how how Black life needs to be degraded, and how that kind of convinces Black males to start engaging in this activity. If Black life wasn't so degraded, Black males wouldn't be engaging in gang life activity that would be so destructive to themselves and the people that look like them. But I think I'll get into that a little bit later when we come to that section.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Nana, yeah, and Kreku. Yes, these shows, they do an excellent job of glamorizing and making gang activities fun, enjoyable, pleasant. And me being a victim of racism, prisoner of war, whose race camp was actually in so-called South Central LA, where Snowfall takes place, I could assure you that it is not pleasant existing in an area where victims of racism are addicted to crack. It's not enjoyable experiencing police raids and ducking drive-by shooters. This is not enjoyable. This is not pleasant or fun. But tragically enough, in the system white supremacy, Area 3 entertainment, we have rap, we have hip hop that makes engaging in gang activity seem fun, enjoyable. Pulling up someone seems enjoyable, something you're supposed to do. Snowfall makes selling crack seems like something highly constructive, something that that we should have been doing. But I definitely, if one is paying close attention to these shows, it definitely shows that at the end of the day, white people are still in charge. They're providing the drugs, supplying the drugs. And just what is discussed in this chapter for gang activities, just a normalization. I recall quite recently, not quite recently, I would be in the race camp, in South Central, LA visiting associates, and I would just walk in to the dwelling and on the pool table, giant pistol with a extended magazine in it. And I'm like, okay, you're definitely not using this to kill racists, but this is the training that we receive in my particular race camp. Gang activities. I have relatives still in greater confinement for gang activities. So it's a highly profitable business, because not only does it convince non-white people to buy a ton of junk, jewelry, like silly clothing, a bunch of useless cars, and a bunch of poison. Not only does it promote that, but it leads us, a large number of us, to be led to greater confinement. Another highly profitable business of white supremacy, keeping us enslaved in a more intense manner, because we're already enslaved by existing in this system. But when they throw us in prison, so-called prison, that's way worse than existing outside of greater confinement, known as prison. And I wanted to discuss just really obvious, but somehow not obvious enough to correct the behavior of so-called gangbangers, so-called gangsters, so-called Black people who think they're tough because they have guns or money or something like that. I'm just gonna go ahead and keep reading, just so we could work on this mentality. We have to erase this mentality out of people classified as Black, this gangster wannabe mentality. So he says here on 279, they will move out of the community and seek to live among white people in the suburbs, and they will never allow chaos to exist in their new, mostly white environments. However, they set up and run chemical houses that contribute to the existing chaos and desolation in the Black community. The big cars symbolize virility and sexual strength. In the street thinking, he is a man who is able to provide. He is the big dog. The banana means loyalty. He is part of a family or a soul type crew. He is willing to be cast as an identified member of a gang, even if it costs him his life. The scarf cap that covers the head and ties in the back recreates the image of a pirate. A pirate is a bad guy, thief, robber, outlaw, criminal, and scoundrel. It is part of the imaging and symbolizing of the Black male as a born criminal. In the old black and white movies, the pirates wore the same kind of headscarves, complete with an earring. The Black males who innocently emulate this look, believing that it's a fashion statement, are unknowingly being imaged as thugs, criminals, and hoods. Gangster rap music lays the groundwork for the expansion of this lifestyle. It validates the Black male criminal image in the minds of impressionable young white males. This also means that as these young white males mature and assume their rightful place and the social structure, they will believe that Black males are natural, dangerous criminals who must be locked up. They will vote for the candidate who will fight crime. If you've been paying attention with us, crime is code for non-white people, particularly Black people. And this just back to my own particular Black programming. I used to think I can recall vividly, talking to my victim siblings about how we're gonna have fun when we go to jail. I literally remember talking about going to jail for fun because I thought it's cool, and this is such a prominent, common, insane thought that I suspect Black people have, that there's even a Kendrick Lamar song, I believe, where he echoes the same sentiments. And it's just, I remember all the big, cool Black people, in and out of jail, and guy had a victim racism. He went by the name of, I'm not gonna say his real name, but it's just really tragic. Just how I thought going to jail would be fun. Jesus, that is tragic. That's absolutely pitiful. And yeah, absolutely pathetic.
If I could add, one of the things that stood out for me on this section, the symbols of seduction, was in the first paragraph of the last sentence. It says, Black children are easy prey for white supremacist influence and direction. And I know I felt that obviously is true. And I know and I feel that I have been exposed to so much racist propaganda as a child where, you know, I internalized that, and I really truly hated myself at many points in time that I can't even, you know, I think it would just be accurate to say from maybe the ages of 6 to maybe like 19 or something, you know, where I've just despised myself and a lot of the people that I've grown around. So when he says that, he's talking about, you know, the symbols of seduction. So all these symbols that Black people are, especially Black children, are watching, seeing, and trying to obtain. You know, oftentimes Black children are, when you're growing up in these decrepit environments, the only way out is for many is to be an entertainer or an athlete, or a gangster. You know, to engage in gang activity and gang violence. That's what I wanted to add for that part. Also too, where he says the economically successful gangbangers never use their ill-gotten millions of dollars to physically redevelop Black communities. They will move out of the community and seek to live among white people in the suburbs. That's another thing that I've seen, and I learned what the difference between an asset and an investment is, and I feel that Black people, especially like these gang members, are, and entertainers too, but just Black people with a lot of money aren't allowed to make investments in like Black community in Black people, like people that look like them, but they're allowed to have assets, right? Assets, you know, their money, right? But making an investment is completely different, because an investment is something that you hope would improve conditions or would improve quickly or over time, whereas an asset, you know, it may not get any better. So when I say that, I'm talking about the houses, the cars, the gold chains that they buy. They're allowed to have all those trinkets, but the minute, you know, you want to invest in a school for Black people, for Black children, programs for Black children, you're not allowed to do that. You can't do that. You'll get, the white supremacists will confuse Black people that that's a bad investment. That's a terrible use of your money. So I thought that's very relevant.
Or they'll say, hey, you could do that, but you got to make sure you have this Urugu permit, this Urugu document. Make sure you get your Urugu license to get that building there. Yeah, it's all these things. But if they want to promote Ciroc or promote some poison, yeah, definitely do that.
Yeah, that's funny you bring that up, because I just saw, more victims. I don't want to criticize victims, but it seems like every time victims of racism are creating something, you know, I saw another vodka alcohol company, you know, and is that really like what Black people need? Is more alcohol, more Black people making alcohol, you know?
Yeah,
so.
but I don't know. You may be. I don't know. I highly doubt Black people are making vodka anywhere. I think they're just being spokespersons for that brand, for those white people who are making the vodka. I may be wrong. It may be a black owned and produced vodka business, but hey, I don't know.
Yeah. And just on top of that, sorry if I'm speaking a lot, Monette, if at any time you want to speak, interrupt me. So going back to the economically successful gangbangers, in that show Top Boy that I mentioned, he ultimately moved. He was living in Summer House, which is, I guess, the equivalent to a ghetto or a hood, and he moved out of the neighborhood because obviously it's full of violence. He's running the whole neighborhood. He's getting what they call youths involved, like underage minors involved in selling these drugs and whatnot. And he started in Summer House, and they had a plan. The Urugus came in, were going to basically gentrify the place. and he was going to put up money for it. He ultimately ended up not doing that because his grandma died, but he didn't like put up any money to redevelop the place or improve the conditions, just not to tear it down. So I think that goes back to they won't invest in their communities. They'll leave it. I mean, I doubt he's gonna move back in there. He knows what it's like there. Yeah, I'm sure he doesn't want to live there. But at his home in the suburbs, he's got all these fancy security equipments. You can't, he only allows one or two of his closest people to come there. They're not really, nobody's bringing money or drugs. That all happens in the hood. And that was interesting because I don't like, it's clear that's clearly happening, but I guess I never noticed it. It's like, they always keep these trap houses in the hood, in the ghettos, but they will never, bring that kind of stuff into the white suburbs where they live. And it's, you would think it's because they don't want that kind of activity around them, but really it's like, it's symbolic because it's probably because white people are around.
Yeah, of course, they're afraid of the white supremacy. They know a racist man and racist woman would not tolerate Lil Tyrone or Lil Shamika selling rock on the corner. Totally unacceptable. Or having trap houses pop up in Beverly Hills. Not gonna happen. So yeah, CRWS says that just that behavior will be crushed the moment it enters the white areas. But yeah, it's like white people are not confused about what they've done, and it's so hidden in plain sight, right in their face. Top boy. So he's never gonna be a man. Top boy, and I suspect this is a anti-sex hidden in there too. I know the anti-sex people, they have some sort of thing going on with tops and bottoms. Top boy, you put two and two together. Come on, in your face. You just gotta know you gotta know that you really just a little bit to start to see it. Snowfall, it's same thing with snowfall. Snow symbolized, white people, white supremacy, racism, falling over that black area, snowfall, white people, the chemical agent known as crack cocaine decimated black people, still does to this day decimate black people who are still riding in greater confinement or who are still lost their mind due to the addiction or who are still recovering from the trauma they experienced during that era. So snowfall, or AKA white people, white racist people destroying black people with crack. Yeah, very much a real thing. They're not confused. And now they just, all right, it's been enough time. We can start, glorifying what we did, make it look cute though, This is not how snowfall is not it's not a correct representation of the race camp known as South Central. At least when I was existing there, was not as pleasantly presented as the show does. So yeah, really interesting.
I think one thing to add too that I feel like it's important is the reason why gangs exist, which is due to the mistreatment, to being mistreated by racist men and racist women. And also it's almost like this mistreatment drives them to reach a certain point or to be somewhere else, especially when it talks about the symbols that come with being in a gang and the symbols that are on them, such as like flashing cash and how that is symbols and abundance of wealth and resources. But we also know that they don't have abundance, wealth and resources. So it's almost like, I always say a twofold, but it's just very interesting how this mistreatment has formed its way in individuals to act or to behave in this way. It's almost like a survival tactic, but also where it says, where is it? On 280, it says, this is why it is so hard to convince young Black people to abandon the destructive lifestyle and move in a positive and constructive direction. I think that's hard to say too, because one thing that's very present is this promotion or promoting gang violence, such as we mentioned, these two shows. There's countless other shows that show or illustrate this behavior to young people, to young Black people, where they're like, hey, I'm gonna grow up and do that. I'm gonna grow up and behave like that. Even though they may not even say those words, it's almost like that is cool to them. But it also comes out in other ways. So maybe you're not in a gang. Maybe you're like, hey, I'm not in gang, but I don't see anything wrong with it. Oh, they're just trying to survive. They're just trying. Like I feel like people make excuses sometimes too, just because they feel like they are benefiting from it. But in reality, it's just harming the entire community and benefiting white people. And there was one other section. Oh, and then this part says on page 281, the first objective of a racial propaganda system is to establish a program of indoctrination to get young Blacks to see Blackness as a acceptable derogatory lifestyle. I think that is very important to say too, is because they're sold on this lifestyle and like given this lifestyle. And it's almost, what do you do in a situation when you're almost suffocating and you just need a breath of air? And sometimes that is someone's breath of air. So it's almost like this is their response to mistreatment. But then also walking into sections as like, say you go on like, I think on February, Black History Month, where they say, oh, Black people matter for 1 month, whatever. And then you go on Target and there's like one little Black section in the front now. I don't know where that section came from. I'm sure it wasn't even out on the floor before, but now there's like a little tiny section of Blackness. And they're glamorizing and grabbing all of these things to create some sort of Blackness, but that doesn't hold any substance. Like having a section in Target doesn't provide me with any money, any wealth, but going in the streets and selling crack provides me with financial something, or gives me this freedom, or I get this feeling. So it's almost like, what is the other lifestyle promoted that could be obtainable by, I guess, I'm gonna say average person, but I guess by a Black person? And you can't really count the ones who are showcase, such as like the entertainers who, I guess, quote unquote, make it, who do all these things. You can't, I guess, equate every Black person to that, because it's not like obtainable. But going in the streets and selling crack is very much obtainable than going and being like famous. So I think it's just like, where is that breath of fresh air, especially when you're looking for a certain lifestyle that equates to reality? Because even going to school, everyone's like, oh, that's a certain type of person who's like like who could read and who can do all these things. So it's almost like a trap.
Yeah, I think it comes back to Black children being very impressionable. They see, they look around them, environment not lacking resources, everybody's strung out on something, everybody's upset, just decrepit environment. And they turn on the TV, they see these Black gangbangers living a life of luxury that they wish they could have. They turn on the TV, they see white people living a life of luxury and they know that they can't have that because they're not white. But then when they see Black people and how they're living the life of luxury, and it's through gangbanging and gang activity, to them, that could be coded. They process that as, I have to participate in those activities to get there. For many of them, I suspect. I think the creation of gang activity ultimately is for racist man, racist woman to maximize their profit, to maximize the opportunity for mistreatment. If Black people are mistreating each other, they don't have to do it. If Black people are engaging in gang activity, they're gonna make the most money off of it. It means more money, more Black deaths, more mistreatment.
Yeah, and the race soldiers love hunting down black people, kicking down doors, going after the big bad gangbangers. So I wanted to read this earlier when you mentioned some things, but I forgot to. So I'm going to read it now. This is from the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, a compensatory counter-racist word guide, a compensatory counter-racist codified word guide by Neelyfoot Jr. This is from page 90. The devastated people use this term to apply to all non-white persons, particularly black males, during the existence of white supremacy racism. Yeah, I'm going to use this to refer to black males and black females because this gang culture 2022 has evolved and also has consumed the black female. I also seen black females blowing each other brains out over so-called gang culture, over so-called being gangbangers. So devastated people, this is what it means to be black, and motivation to want to eliminate racism, white supremacy, and replace it with a system of justice, guaranteeing no one is allowed to be mistreated and those who need help receive constructive help. Every single non-white person, especially black people, should want and be working to acquire and produce justice. It's as easy as using your thought, speech, and behavior to counter racism, and you best start by thinking against it. ProduceJustice.com. Please buy the book, learn. If you don't want to buy the book, go to hip hop cartoons. There's a ton of lectures or a ton of clips of Neelyfoot talking. We read the book. We have a playlist on it. The Cows, Context of White Supremacy, Black Talk Radio .network. Find that on Google. You listen to some counter racist information and become a part of the effective number who is going to solve this problem or die trying. That's what we're working for. Solve the problem or die trying, because the slow torture thing is not for me particularly. 0526. Continuing with some notes I wanted to share in the text. This gang. Oh yeah, and none of y'all mentioned it. She said it seems like a trap, and that's exactly what it is. Racist man and racist woman, they play all angles. They profit from all sides, even though they print the money. So they really has no value to them. The system of white supremacy is the real value to white people. Money, they print the money, they control the money. Anyways, 280. These material symbols have become part of the big setup. What is the big setup? The big setup is the use of material and symbolic inducements to entrap, incarcerate, and eliminate millions of young black males. These intoxicating symbols are used to image and glorify a destructive lifestyle as wonderful. The big setup is designed to trap black males at an early age through the symbols of manhood, power, big money, eternal life, royalty, unequaled adventure, unlimited excitement, unbridled sex, and intrigue. The young black males live under the direct glare of white supremacy indoctrination. They have no real image, alternative, counter-thinking, or cultural shield to protect them from the most addictive racial propaganda system in the known world. Black people in North America do not identify with or speak a separate language, nor do they have strong cultural remembrance that enable them to withstand the barrages of propaganda. So this is why gang culture exists. This is why black people we behave in the manner that we do. This is why it took me a very long time to actually start caring about people, but I'm gonna say black people. Yeah, I was very apathetic towards life, and black people dying all the time. I did not care because the program was in me. I grew up watching rated R movies and white people killing for fun. So death was normal to me. If people die, I did not care. Even relatives of mine could die, I did not care. Did not value life at all because that's the programming. I was programmed very, 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 very well, very, very psychotically. So then it wasn't until I learned and unlearned. oh, like, holy crap, black people are not supposed to be slaughtered like this. We're not supposed to be shooting each other. Oh yeah, it's not normal for people to die. It's kind of incorrect. So yeah, this is the what do he call it? The most addictive racial propaganda system in the known world. It's how powerful it is. It convinces millions of black males like myself, black females, I suspect as well, that black existence is quite worthless. We need to get that fake hair in us. We need to dye our hair blonde. We need to get all these things to make this black body of ourselves more presentable, because white people have done a number on our psyches. We are totally insane and deranged, and yeah, we need help. And the help we need most is the will to solve this race problem immediately, because the destruction will continue. It will continue, and they're gonna keep making new forms of monsters out of us, I suspect.
Yeah. Can I be heard?
Yes, you can. Yes, we may.
Okay. I wanted to add, because I had that part highlighted, specifically Black people in North America that do not identify with or speak a separate language, nor do they have strong cultural remembrances that enable them to withstand the barrages of propaganda. So if you analyze, white culture, white history, you'll notice that this kind of gang activity, that is nothing new to them. This is something that white people, Urugus, racist man, racist women, they have done forever. They've practiced this against one another, and they will continue to practice it against one another. And now we have Black people in North America who have adopted this, have been conditioned to adopt this, and now they've made it a part of their culture. And I think it's just it's very interesting, how he put that. There's nothing in place for Black people in North America to be able to counter this. I think obviously what we're talking about, when Easy Fuller's talking about a code, if Black people follow the code, then we win. That could be something that we have to counter this kind of propaganda. But as we see today, many Black people in North America buy into this, follow these ideals, have been conditioned to follow it, and they practice it on one another. So I think it just seems kind of relevant too right now when you're talking about the so-called tribal groups that are rising up. I call them tribal groups, like FBA, ADOS, and whatnot. That in America, this is American culture. This is white culture, and we are all victims of it. We practice this kind of nonsense, insanity on one another. And are we trying to claim that is like normal? Is that part of human nature? Some people might say that. I definitely don't agree with that, but I thought it was very interesting how he put that in there, that Black people in North America have no way of countering this kind of racist propaganda.
That was an interesting statement there, quite cool. I was just thinking, even though they don't have I don't even think they know anything else. Well, not that they don't know anything else. I believe that even on 282, it says that Black people are programmed to respect the symbols of white supremacy. And that isn't just gangs, that's all of it. So I think when it comes to Black people admiring something or wanting to become something or having something, it's always this internal thing of wanting to become what white people have, but you never can get there because you're Black. So it's this continuous strive for wanting to get somewhere, and you can't really get there, but then also falling into the traps of white supremacist tactics. I think I have something else to say in a second. I forgot the last part, but I'll just leave it at that and I'll add it later.
I wanted to add as well, since racism, white supremacy is global, I think that this activity happens all across the planet, where we have Black people like stealing from one another. But I can't say whether or not, this level of gang activity is present on other parts of the planet. Maybe like in the UK or definitely in America, but I don't know if it's present on other places on the planet. It could be, but I think there's a high likelihood that it is, because Black people all over the planet have been taught to respect the symbols of racism, white supremacy.
The behavior is white people, racist men or racist women, they will and can produce the behaviors that they want to see in the Black people, no matter where they are. So if they want to, if they want to see if they want to see gang activity in Rwanda, they can, and they've proven that with what happened there, the Rwanda genocide. So it's about what they have planned. It wasn't gang activity in the so-called across the pond. That's just them mimicking what they're seeing the Black people doing over here. The white people have allowed them to all right, I'll let you guys pretend to be like the Americans, like the American Blacks, the cool Blacks that they've been called. So it's just whatever the racist man, racist woman want to promote. I suspect
that's a good point, because when I think back to Urugu, and when she said something along the lines of like white America is the greatest exporter of like a white American culture. That's all that they're known for. So they use Black Americans or Black people in North America to produce these images and then export it across the planet to teach all the Black people on the planet how to act like this and to try to achieve and attain and mimic these behaviors. So that's interesting. I just thought about that. So racist man, racist woman, once again, doing what they do best. Exporting debauchery, foolishness, and insanity.
Precisely. And now that I mentioned that how we're taught to respect the symbols of white supremacy, and these symbols manifest in an infinite amount of ways. We non-white people and white people, I was talking about non-white people, we literally worship like white symbols, and whether we're talking about Goku from Dragon Ball Z or Batman or Naruto, we have a fascination with white beings and white characters, because that's our training. Since our inception, we've been exposed to messages that white is where it's at. White is powerful. White is what you want to be, and things that are Black are scary. Things that go bump in the night are dark, and watch out for them. So the programming is real. This is why we have been placed and trained in such a manner where, wow, if you really pay attention to where our mind is, it's very, very tragic. We have people, we have Black people who have tattoos of like Winnie the Pooh, who call themselves Winnie the Pooh, who have such a worship of these white characters that just represent white supremacy, just represent our, that white people are still in charge. And it's all behaviors that we should observe and want to correct. And I'm going to read here on 282. This is very, very significant and important. I'm going to read quite a bit from 282. I'm going to break it up into chunks, and folks may want to comment on what I'm reading as well. So from 282, the third objective is to incorporate in the minds of Blacks involved in the gangbanging lifestyle the belief that other Black people are the enemy, redirecting the target from fighting white injustice to fighting other Black people is a classic work of art. The purpose is to convince young Blacks to believe that other Black people are responsible for the existence of the horrendous social conditions. They are conditioned to believe that Black people have abandoned them or do not care whether they live or die. These young Blacks grow up to hate and disrespect other Black people. They are encouraged to believe that they get what they want. They are encouraged to believe that to get what they want, Black people or niggas that stand in their way must be eliminated. So this is a mentality that tragically, I suspect many non-white people carry still to this day, 2022. And it makes a lot of sense, when it makes a lot of sense, especially if looking from the youth's perspective to see what if I'm a toddler, if I'm a little Black child, and I can observe the world, and I see all these older Black people still, going to the club, getting dressed up, going to the club, partying, having fun still. No one's really being serious about nothing. No one's really, who's teaching me something constructive? Who's going to teach me how to swim? What am I learning right now? Why is mom and pa still going to the club? Who's going to teach me about vegetables? So the youth, the Black youth, it makes a logical sense how they, they just the white supremacist programming just computes in them really well, and it's understandable. It's tragic. It's not correct, and it should be corrected. And this should motivate us to want to correct it. And I'll pause there to see if folks want to chime in before I continue.
Yeah, that was there's 3 objectives, but this one was I guess one that I have been facing a lot lately. I think Black people, this is of the 3 objectives, I'm not even going to rank them, but this is a major one. I think a lot of Black people on the planet struggle with this one, especially because they tend to deal with other Black people a lot. Some don't come in contact with white people, so it's just a Black face on white supremacy. But I think he says they are conditioned to believe that Black people have abandoned them and do not care whether they live or die. I feel like there is some truth in that, whether they're conditioned or not. Like, there are Black people who have completely abandoned and left Black people looking for white acceptance. But that isn't entirely true, right? There are Black people like us who are concerned about the condition. Black people across the globe tend to find themselves in and are trying to work to actually improve or change that, replace it with justice, right? I wanted to read the other 2 objectives because I thought that those are also pretty important. It says that 281, the first objective of a racial propaganda system is to establish a program of indoctrination to get young Blacks to see Blackness as an acceptable derogatory lifestyle. So I think Black people need to, I guess, define what derogatory lifestyle is. An acceptable derogatory lifestyle. The second objective is to establish and reinforce symbols and value systems that encourage the devaluation of Black life. And then the third one, like 05 read. So those are the 3 objectives of a racial propaganda system. Are Black people subject to this racial propaganda system? I think absolutely. Are they countering it? I think we are severely lacking in countering that racial propaganda system.
Thank you, Mr. Kweku. And greetings to the chat, and greetings, Sour Kiss, who says, greetings, we have to remember that we don't have a community, so it's hard to help others. Do you think a code can create a community? There will never be a so-called Black community. We have to produce a system of justice to get some sort of global community. But yeah, that's correct. And we've been reading, and I've been hearing this community over and over, and I wanted to mention that is correct. According to counter-racist logic, and is according to logic in general, a community is a place, so some sort of base where you can protect it, and it has the resources that help you to do things that are constructive. Tragically enough, Black people do not have such communities. The neighborhoods that we reside in are no more than race camps, places that racist men and racist women allow us to exist in, allow us to dwell in. Some of them are very comfortable, and they're allowed to, exist in a manner where there's, so-called peace. Some are very, very uncomfortable and are allowed to exist in a manner with chaos, known as gang violence, poverty and whatnot. But there's no Black community. So back to 282. Kyrie states, white supremacists, and this is so significant. This is where I think a lot of the damage is, because this is the example of how crafty and how just smart racist men and racist women are. They have conditioned and trained us for a very long time to not even focus on white people. We're not going to think white people are the cause of our problems. And if we are, we're going to think it's very, very few of them. We're not going to be suspicious of everyone who calls themselves white. So they got us to focus on each other, who are, very powerless to do much of anything. So that's very damaging when you are a victim. We read a bit of The Body Keeps the Score, and psychologists say, doctors say, if you are a victim of trauma, if you are wanting to correct your trauma, to heal from your trauma, you have to place the blame on the correct source of your trauma, the correct source of the collective trauma of people classified as Black. It's not Black people, but people who classify themselves as white and choose to practice racism, white supremacy. So we have to be able to blame the right people, which are the racist white supremacists. Very, very important. So I'm going to get back to the reading. So I have to point out the significance. We have to begin to focus and understand that Black people are not the cause of our problems. It's the racist men and racist women. So for 282, a white supremacist training teaches Black people that other Black people are the enemy. They are trained to believe that other Black people in another part of town have control of things and territories that they want. The subliminal billboards, commercial music videos, and magazine covers repeat this central theme. The Black male is the enemy. He has Uzis, Glock 9s, and other weapons of destruction. The Black male above all must be killed because he is the enemy. Young Blacks involved in gangbanging have been programmed like zombies to kill and debase each other. They believe without question, like Black people or niggas, or they believe without question that Black people or niggas are dispensable, low-life snakes that deserve to be killed because they are menaces to societies. Do society a favor and kill a nigga. After all, nothing will happen when you kill a nigga. They understand that Black life has no value under white supremacy. They have watched with great indifference the destruction of millions of Black people, the genocide of millions of Black people in Rwanda, the Congo, and other locations in the African continent was hardly mentioned above, a whisper even in the Black media, Black formatted radio, cable, television, newspapers. Therefore, who cares if a nigger dies? They heard reports during the 13th annual AIDS conference in Durban, South Africa, that up to 60 million Black people would die in less than 5 years from the AIDS virus, and no major Black person seemed to care. They surmise from this information that Black life is highly expendable. These young, untrained, uncultured Black minds never think about challenging the really dominant force in their lives, white supremacy. They have been programmed to respect the symbols of white supremacy. They have been taught to admire, fear, and respect white people. They may not admit this. As a matter of record, they will say that they hate white people. However, the facts and their behavior show that the opposite is true. They have been conditioned to hate Black people. That is why they kill Black people. They believe that white people are the ultimate and most feared power. They believe that white people are the ultimate and most feared people and power on earth. They do not disrupt white businesses or white society. They know better. They clearly understand the social and personal consequences of that kind of action. Okay, so I just wanted to read that bit. And if folks are scholarly enough, they can recall Bobby E. Wright's words, why do Black people kill Black people? Because they have never been taught how to kill white people. This is a behavior that has a programming, a training, a conditioning. And we were forced to kill each other when we were on the boats, when we got here from the boats, and chattel slavery. So this is something we've been doing for a long time. And it's part of the 10 stops, the 10 basic stops of things we need to stop doing. One of that is stop killing. Most importantly, stop killing each other. There's an enemy, and some say enemies should be destroyed. So direct that towards the enemy, not a people classified as Black. So I'm gonna pause to see if folks want to chime in. Yeah, I really hope this information is computed to the folks listening, to the folks who will come across this information. We must focus on racist man and racist woman. Spend way more time, energy studying them instead of focusing on each other. What we're doing, most of it is not going to help us solve problems. And if it is, awesome. Keep at it. Keep being constructive. So he has here on 383 a number of decoded words or phrases, basically. And I'm gonna add one to this list that I was just doing some thinking about slang, and I was just thinking about what are we really saying when we say some of the things that we say. And I just recall always hearing, smoking that gas, I got that gas, and we're in reference to smoking marijuana. I'm like, dang, do we call Black people who smoke marijuana victims who have been conditioned and just sabotaged to be addicted to marijuana? Do we call weed gas because we need it to keep us going, as a fuel source, an energy source? I don't know. Sobriety would be best, as many kind of racists say. So I'm gonna decode some more of phrases that Black people are known to say. Niggas. Well, okay. This says niggers and niggas ain't shit, but we mostly hear niggas ain't shit. We mostly hear that. I'm sure people are saying niggers aren't shit as well, but the text says niggers and niggas ain't shit. And he has here the decoded meaning: die, nigger, die. And then another, he calls these phrases self-hate language. I think that's also important. Self-hate language, and he has decoded meanings. Another one is them niggas, decoded as the enemy. And there's quite a bit here. I'm just gonna read probably one more. Get that money, bitch. She decodes as bring me the money, hoe, or sell that dope. And I would urge folks to, just get your copy of Race Code War as you're acquiring your copy of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. So you could get access to all the information in this text, because we can't cover all of it, of course. And he has another list of words here that he has decoded. He says symbols of the setup, the symbols being gold. He has a social meaning, everlasting life, silver, wealth, dollar signs, and cash. The social meaning, get money now, jewelry, social meaning, kingly, royalty. And there's a ton of others. That's all I'm going to read from there. Alrighty, so we're moving into Black Man and Horses. I'm gonna pause my mic and see if folks want to share some of their notes before I get started with mine.
Black Men and Horses. This isn't the first time this concept of black men and horses, or black males being compared to beasts, so-called beasts and horses. This isn't the first time this has come up in this book. I think that in much of white supremacy language, black men are constantly being compared to animals, to beasts. I personally I guess I wasn't too aware of this before the book, but black men are often called studs, being analyzed for the traits or comparison, the things they share with other animals, things of that nature. And really the black horses come to symbolize black males, I think, in all areas of people activity, I guess mainly in entertainment. I think that the black horse has been sexualized, just like the black male has been sexualized. And I think that is also one of the comparisons that the white supremacist makes between the two. That's what I have on this section so far.
One part that stood out to me in this section was the part on Jesse Owens. Yeah, I think I recall too talking about this earlier in the book. It could be a totally different book, but the section on Jesse Owens really stood out because it shows, well, at the time when he was a famous athlete, well, the Black famous athlete in the world, Olympic athlete, and he raced against a horse, which symbolized like the two animals running against each other. And I think that is pretty symbolic in itself, especially when you have an animal and a Black person either next to each other or just describing them in the same manner. It pretty much inevitably shows like, hey, you are an animal too, or you're faster than this animal, or this animal is faster than you. But it's also known in just the sports industry in general. Like when you hear people describe athletes, they describe them as if they would be describing an animal. And even when they're trading these athletes to different teams, they're trading as if they're trading stock. Like, hey, this one's fluffier, this one's faster, this one's bigger, this one could last you 20 more years. And then that's how they buy each other. So it's almost embedded into, I don't want to say Black culture, but just in Blackness. I was gonna say though that I mainly see it with males, Black males, but I'm thinking, like, obviously I see it with Black females, but I often see it when describing Black males. So that could be telling.
I'm going to comment on something from the chat that stood out. What's the code? Greetings, what's the code? Mr. Yahoo. But what's the code said? She offered a 2022 self-hate phrase and she says, "Bad bitch, get the bag." Decoded, just which decoded literally means nigger female or nigger bitch, whatever. It means the same thing, honestly. Get the bag, get the nonsense, get the junk, get the material trinkets that white people have set out for you to acquire. Definitely no focus about white supremacy. Definitely don't focus on that. But thank you, White the Code. That is a good one. Okay. So I'm going to. So I thought what folks said about the horses were excellent segues into what we're going to be discussing. Because we're getting into some depraved stuff, and this is an excellent opportunity to just share a real existence experience with the Yurugu and what they exposed me and my victim siblings to when we were younger. But I'm gonna read some I thought this decoding here from about this film I'm sure no one has seen called Nixon. But I just thought it's really interesting. He says 285, the most symbolic illustration, and he's again referencing how the black horse in the racist mindset and the racist lore, the black horse is the black male, and that process is known as animalization. Turning a person into a animal. It allows it makes it easier to mistreat that person, to slaughter that person like a animal. But no animal should be slaughtered. No one should be slaughtered. All right, so 285. The most symbolic illustration featured a scene in dialogue between Nixon and FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover as they walked together down a racetrack. Hoover comments about the degenerate Dr. King. In the next scene, he's attempting to pet a black horse that is foaming at the mouth and is wildly rejecting Hoover's touch. The horse seems to fear Hoover and shows emotional instability. The symbolic meaning of this scene is very important. The black horse symbolizes Dr. King or black males. The foaming at the mouth implies that he is a disease like HIV/AIDS and is an immoral deviant. The wild behavior means that the black male is out of control, dangerous, hostile, must be corralled and controlled or exterminated. The scene uses symbolism to give dual meanings and make subtle connections between the black horse and black male. The Nixon movie was not made especially to appeal to black audience, yet it shows scenes that associated words about black males with scenes of horses and a wild beast. So that's just one that it's really in your face. Not only are black people in the racist mindset, not only are we animals, but we're diseased animals. Diseased animals. Very, very telling motivation to confront racist man and racist woman. So what are you going to do about us diseased animals? You're going to kill us all, or you're going to help us produce justice, because those are the only options that we're going to give you. And it's enough of us to make this business of yours not that enjoyable. So make the decision, produce justice, or kill us all. So this scene right here, I'm sure I watched this film almost recently, and this went over my head, and I'm somewhat less confused, but still very confused. And I appreciate this decoding so much, because it says a lot, and it's hidden in plain sight. RIPS is a program that we do, racism in plain sight, just to show you how racist men and racist women have mastered hiding racism in plain sight. So I'm going to read this decoding here from 285 again. This same kind of association between black males and horses was made in the movie The Godfather. And this is the scene I have here on the screen for you all to get an understanding of it. So you can really see how it's hidden in plain sight. It's literally looking at you if you see it. This same kind of association between black males and horses was made in the movie The Godfather. During a scene at a horse stable owned by a movie mogul, the Godfather attorney Tom Hagen, played by actor Robert Duvall, tries to persuade the mogul to give the Godfather's godson, a Frank Sinatra type character, a prime role in the upcoming motion picture. As they stand in the horse stable, the mogul shows off his black horse to Tom Hagen. He calls his black horse Khartoum. Khartoum is a capital city of Sudan, a nation of black people on the African continent. The Sudanese people are some of the darkest skinned people on the planet. In the scene, a black man named Tony is the handler of Khartoum. An immediate subliminal connection is made between the black handler and the black horse. The horse and male are black. The black male's name is Tony, or decoded pony. Remember earlier in the text, we talk about how white people also do word associations, just swap one word with the other one, and then you can make the decoding. That's what we learned about like in the introduction of this text. But anywho's, he says, Tony, or decoded pony. The black horse is named after a black city called Khartoum. In Sudan, a black nation on a black continent called Africa. Would the same message come through if the horse handler were a white man? The horse pure white, and he was named after the city Berlin, Germany, located in Europe. So it's in your face, but they're really crafty with it. So you really got to be you really have to know what racism is, what it is and how it works to even see it, to get it, I suspect. The folks want to chime in, the folks understand this decoding.
Yeah, as I'm looking at this picture, I think that this picture says a lot. If I could take a shot at decoding it, what I'm seeing is I see two white males. One looks like a businessman. The other one looks like a powerful white person. Both suspected racists. It looks like the businessman could be, him by him touching it. This is like something that's prized to him. He's trying to sell it to the powerful white person. The very powerful white person seems very intrigued and to like it. He's holding wine, this like glass in his hand. And he's got a ring. Seems like it's luxury. Both of them have glasses. So maybe they're friends. They're in the business of doing business with one another. And I see that they are both looking. I think they're both looking at this horse, as a prized possession. Both got their hands on it. And then in the background, you almost can't even see him. You see the black person who is attached to that horse. They don't even care about that black person. Their only eyes are on the horse, the resource, right? The resource that is an investment that could bring them tons of money possibly. And you see the black person holding on to the horse, almost for dear life. Everything that could happen right now is attached to him. Whatever happens with this horse, that is going to affect him. But he almost looks powerless, absolutely powerless to do anything about it. And he's quietly in the background, and they don't even notice him. So I think it's, the horse symbolizing Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, and the black person holding onto that horse symbolizing the people in that state or in that country, and the white people who ultimately will be deciding what happens to that state where those black people live. Very symbolic.
And notice his eyes are hidden. That's very common in the system of white supremacy, hiding the eyes of a black person to further dehumanize them, because doesn't they call it the eyes the key to the soul, the gateway to the soul, preventing just really objectifying him and really attaching him to the horse. He might as well be one with the horse. He's truly just a prop. This is called blocking. Everything that is on when you're watching films or TV, everything that you see on the screen is supposed to mean something. And in here, this is saying a lot. This is saying quite a bit.
Yeah, he definitely looks like a slave.
Yeah.
Doesn't even look like, whatever. Doesn't even look like he matters in the equation. He's just there to hold on to the horse.
Yeah, and if you're paying attention, you can see the ropes that he has. The ropes, very reminiscent of a noose. But I could just be a crazed victim just reaching, But that's what it's saying to me. So all right. Okay, so am I gonna? Okay, I guess we're gonna jump around a bit. So we're gonna get into what we talked about quite a bit, more on RIPS, racism in plain sight, bestiality, and first I'm gonna read a bit about Kyrie and Harrell's what he says about bestiality and white supremacy. This association, again, is from 285. This association is also connected with the practice of bestiality. Women in countries like Germany, Sweden, France, and the Netherlands have been featured in pornographic movies that depict oral and vaginal sex, often with dark black horses. From the angle of many of the shots in these gross movies, it often appears as if the women are having sex with black males. White supremacists conquer and break horses in the same way they have broken black men to be used for sport, amusement, and domination. Racists glorify black males as the greatest sprinters who run the same kind of short distance speed races favored by the owners of prize horses. They are called the greatest running backs in football and have been compared to running horses. And white supremacist sexual lore, black male genitals have been compared in size to those of horses, with statements such as, "That nigger is hung like a horse." Note the subliminal connection between the word race and the act of running. So, yeah, so it's just time to segue into a decrepit experience that I now understand even further, having read this text and becoming less confused. So when I was a younger victim of racism and white supremacy, let's say 12 years old, maybe going on 13, me and my victim sibling, we were existing on our own. My victim mother was away. So we were just, existing by ourselves, and then randomly, this white man appears, his name is Justin. I remember his name, Justin. He's a white fellow, probably in his 20s. And he became our friend, Justin became our friend, and we hung out. And then one day, Justin took us to his just older white guy's house. And Justin, the older white guy, started off somewhat constructive. He taught me and my victim sibling how to pick locks, because they knew how to do it, and me and my victim sibling asked how to do it. And we noticed that he had like a large visible collection of pornography, just invisible sight. And he takes the older white man, never got his name, takes one of the disc and plays it, and it's a horse having sex with a white woman, of course. And I watched it for like not too long, but long enough to remember the image, and I was like, wow. I couldn't even process what I was seeing, but I saw it. And why would white people expose black children to such things? Maybe because we're in a system of white supremacy, But that's just something, this is happening. This is real, It's not hard to find this sort of material bestiality. And if you do find it, ask yourself, why does this exist? Should this exist? Is this correct? And if the answer is no, then maybe you shouldn't exist. I may be just again a crazy nigger. I am confused still. So continuing. Well, I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna pause and see if I want to chime in.
It seems that racist man, racist woman allow this kind of debauchery to go on. There are whole industries of namely white people who are engaging in really unholistic, just I don't even know how to describe it, just insane sexual behaviors, having sex with animals, having sex with children. These are all things that white people, racist man, racist women are doing, are allowing to happen and be produced all over the planet for people to see and mainly for them to enjoy. I don't know of any Black corporations, Black people, Black productions that are producing this kind of imagery on a large scale. I only know of white people that are doing this. Something that definitely goes into maintaining the system of racism, and something that I think is, in my observation, that racist man, racist woman enjoy. So they call Black people, they call them animals, beasts, all kinds of names, dehumanizing them, but they're having sex with animals. They're having sex with horses, dogs, oral sex with dogs and horses for fun. That's what they do. So definitely in some insane people we're dealing with. I mean, I think Black people shouldn't ignore that this stuff is happening and that this stuff goes on, no matter how much people want to deny it. But this stuff is very accurately happening. That's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, and David Johnson. Yes, the majority of my existence, I've been off code, Neely Fuller's attempted counter racist code. I've been off that. So yeah, especially when I was 12, I was certainly off code. I attempted to be on code now. So if you're confused about that, it seemed like you may have not realized I was telling a story that took place many years ago. But thank you for your input and your participation nonetheless. Alrighty, so continue on with the Godfather decoding. We have more here on 286. In the Godfather movie, the studio mogul says that he would not race the black horse, but would put him out for stud service. This statement and scene have powerful racial implications. During chattel slavery, black males were raced against each other and were sold as studs to breed other slaves. The era of this particular movie was between 1944 and 1950. This would have been after Jesse Owens' earth-shattering performance at the 1936 Olympics held in Berlin, Germany. Jesse was still considered one of the most famous athletes in the world. It was during this era that Jesse Owens raced against a horse, symbolizing two animals running against each other. So we have to put one more nail in his coffin. When thinking about the racist mind, and what does the racist mind think of black males, black people, gonna have to play the scene again. Just to hammer in. And this movie takes place a very long time ago, as he said, 1944. But this is still going on. This mentality is still with us.
I don't believe in drugs. For years, I paid my people extra so they wouldn't do that kind of business. Somebody comes to them and says, I have powders. If you put up $3,000, $4,000 investment, we can make $50,000 distributing. So they can't resist. I want to control it as a business. to keep it respectable. I don't want it near schools. I don't want it sold to children. That's an infamia. In my city, we would keep the traffic in the dark, people, the colored. They're animals anyway, so let them lose their souls.
Black people being animals, soulless animals, positioning Black people to be soulless props in films, it should all be coming together now. And this is mentality is still home together. I mean, it's still present today, 2022. Should be motivation. I don't say this to get anyone to get angry at white people or to want to hate white people or even hate the races. I just use this as motivation for us to solve the race problem, produce a system of justice, guaranteeing, hey, no one's being mistreated. You know, people who need help are getting the help. You know, no person is a horse. A horse is a horse, and a person is a person. Quite simple. But when you live in an insane system, you got people, you know, saying that a Black male is a horse, and then you have white women having sex with horses. All very confusing, all very insane. You know, motivation to solve the problem. So before we get into one of the most celebrated pedophiles to ever grace the system of white supremacy, any more comments on horses and Black horses?
None here.
Thank you. All righty, we're gonna talk a little bit about so-called the king of what does they call this guy? The king of rock. Yeah, king of rock, Elvis Presley, married a 14-year-old. Well, didn't marry a 14-year-old, but became romantically involved with a 14-year-old. Eventually married her when she was 14. He was 24. But this is the white man who decided, hey, it's really profitable to tan my skin, dress in Black clothing, and pretend to be a Black person, you know. And this guy is celebrated, you know, and if you do some I would recommend it, but if you want to learn about this celebrated pedophile known as Elvis Presley, you would know that a large number of white people helped him to keep his arrangement with Priscilla a secret. So really bizarre. Should 24-year-olds be dating or involved with 14-year-olds? I don't think so, but I'm just a confused victim. And Elvis Presley is a white man, so I'm going to read a little bit about him. On 287, it says, the Elvis Presley phenomenon has had a tremendous racial impact on white culture. This phenomenon has a deep Black foundation. Blackness is the basis of the Presley dynamic. It is the worship of a Black man in white skin. Presley was an outlet for the deep frustration of white females who desire to worship and be with Black males, and for white males who secretly desire to be like Black males. Elvis Presley gave them open license to express these desires without associating with Blackness. Elvis symbolized the white man's desire to escape his deadness, sterility, and lack of soul. Elvis Presley's rebel style and walk and hair were Black. And there's a Yurugu, Welsing, and Ilifua moment in this sentence here. Continuing. He kept a dark tan, the darker the better, and he loved wearing Black clothes and Black shoes. He copied Black music and tried to imitate Black dance movements in his show routines. He literally bathed himself in the whole scope of Blackness. His early and most important musical influence and entertainment styles came from Black people like Bo Diddley. He could sell the black style in a safe manner. He could enable white people to satisfy their great hunger and endless desire for dark chocolate, darkness, black night sex, black garters, black panties, black stockings, black cars, and so forth. White people have a tremendous fixation and extremely deep obsession with darkness and blackness. Whites have a love-hate relationship with deep, dark color. They want to be darker in color, as witness their incessant desire to suntan. They think black is sexual, as witness their purchase of black panties, black dildos, black stockings, and black high heel shoes. Elvis came along a time when the word integration was code for breaking up the hard rule of white supremacy. The thought of receiving blackness directly from black people was too overwhelming a force to reckon with. The white handlers were very fearful of the power of black sound, movement, and soul. That's very, very evident because so-called soul music, so-called all the constructed music we used to produce and circulate around has been replaced with so-called mainstream media, which is just a bunch of nonsense. But back to suspected racist Elvis Presley. Yeah, this is a excellent example. He's right up there with Jeffrey Dahmer as in like a symbol of white supremacy. You know, pretend to be black if you're a white person. Just you know, he just copied Plato. You know, Plato plagiarized a whole civilization. Elvis is just following his forefathers. You know, plagiarized black people, and it become a worldwide sensation of being a really bizarre imitation. Sounded really weird. If you've heard the male speak, sounds very bizarre to me, and it just sounds very suspect and very like an act, which it seems like it was according to Kyrie and Harrows. I'm not well researching this guy. Besides seeing Forrest Gump and seeing him in that film, and it portrays him stealing from black people in that movie as well. So yeah, there's sprinkle some truth in there sometimes, but never about how to solve this problem, I suspect. But yeah, Elvis. Folks want to talk about Elvis a little bit. If not, I totally understand. This is a very lame suspected racist. So
Yeah, Elvis is one of many white suspected racists who have, like the author said, bathed themselves in blackness, have just been created for other suspected racists to have access to blackness. He mentioned Eminem, the Beastie Boys, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, being other people, other suspected racists who have, you know, followed a similar path as Elvis. Don't really care for Elvis. I don't think I've ever heard a song by Elvis. I know I've known white females who have liked Elvis. I don't know why. I think that there's also young white females who fantasize and romanticize the 50s because of Elvis, saying they wish they could go back to that time. I know no black person, most black people who aren't confused don't want to go back to the 50s. But many white people do. Elvis is, you know, don't care for him, lame guy, lame music. That's all I gotta say about this racist suspect. Elvis is a racist suspect, just as every other white person. That's the only important thing about him. I guess you were talking about movies. I felt like Grease. I saw a movie a long time ago. I feel like that was another movie that.
Your well tingling are tingling. That's great one. Yeah.
Yeah, that for sure was about Elvis. And that time, leather, black.
Yeah. Yeah, dark black hair. Yeah, just
And look at that scene. They're the only ones wearing black, and like they're the most powerful and important people in that whole movie. And they're the only ones wearing black. And then you got kind of like his sidekick right there, who's allowed to have a black jacket.
Yeah, he got some power, but
Yeah.
but Travolta, he got most of the blackness,
Yeah. They wore black everywhere they went.
Yeah, we'll see that time and time again. We see that in Batman, Bruce Wayne wears black. We see that American Psycho, Patrick Bateman wears black. It's just in your face. The race soldiers wear black. It's just all over the place. The love-hate relationship Kyrie and her hero mentions.
Yeah, and it's like in these films too, they were imitating black people, with the singing and the dancing, the gyrating their hips and
the so-called
all that
stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Imitate black people.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. Yeah, but this is what we're contending with. These are the people in charge. Motivation to solve the race problem. Please go to producejustice.com. Acquire your copy of Neely Fuller Jr.'s code book if you don't want to read the text. We read it cover to cover, did a whole study on it. So you can find that playlist on this channel if you don't want to read the text. Alrighty, let me see. I think I covered everything. One more thing. This just came to mind. We played the Godfather scene twice. Let them lose their souls. They're animals anyway. Back to white supremacy and how I suspect some of it is a projection. Meaning that whatever they're saying is actually representation of themselves, their behaviors, their existence, perhaps. So let them lose their soul. They're the animals anyway. Perhaps racist man and racist woman lost their soul a long time ago. Perhaps that's why they behave in a way that is worse than animals, I would say. But I don't even know. I'm not a doctor or a spiritualist person. I don't know if those are a concept I can totally grasp. But just a thought to throw out there, something to think about if you choose to. That being said, we can segue into closing comments. I do appreciate Mr. Yahoo, Mr. Johnson for their participation in the chat. Mr. Johnson, I do wish that your input was a little bit more concise because it is a lot to keep track of, but do appreciate your participation. So folks, to get us started, please do.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and get us started. I wanted to end because as I'm looking at grease, I just start to think about it, decode it. So like grease is usually a black substance. So I think these white people are saying that they have grease or they are the grease. I think it's also something that they put in their hair. As you can see, John Travolta in the picture, he's putting it in his hair to kind of give it volume, which is something that Black females and Black people, Black males have always had in their hair, and white people have, gone to great lengths to imitate. So by putting, so-called grease in their hair to give it volume to look like Black hair. So grease is the word, is the grease, the blackness that he's wearing.
Do you remember in the film, the grease, the substance they were using, was it a black substance they were putting on their hair?
I can't remember. I cannot remember. I think it may have been in like a black container, and I know they had like a black comb to apply it.
Oh yeah, of course.
I don't know if the substance was actually black. But yeah, so grease is the word. Grease is usually black. Maybe they're saying they bathe in grease. Grease gives them the powers, gives them the power that they have, etc. But other than that, wonderful constructive business meeting. Get your copy of the code book. Remember, the goal is to produce a system of justice united in producing that under a single code. Yeah, so looking forward to the next business meeting.
I don't have much of a concluding statement other than continuous study on what you can, get your hand on the copies that Kwaku and O5 have mentioned. And I think it's very important as you're reading through these materials and looking at the videos that were shared and the pictures up on the screen as well, and listening to the discussion, that you're able to formalize your own thoughts. You know, it's important to be able to critically think about these materials and critically think about your life and the things that you see every day and you participate in order to come up with your own conclusion of how to end the problem and produce a system of justice. So other than that, constructive business meeting, as always. I am excited to get into chapter 6 and also just go ahead and finish the book. So more to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kwaku, Ms. Nanaya. So yeah, I think it's really important for the folks to understand that solving a race problem doesn't start with confronting racism and racism. I mean, it literally starts with changing our own behavior, because us as non-white people have we have some improving to do. And I'm going to read the 10 basic stops. And this could be very simple for some of us, or very difficult for some of us. No matter, it must be done to progress, not even progress, to counter this system effectively. So again, this is from the Word Guide, and this is the basic 10 stops for victims of racism. And number 1, stop snitching, volunteering information about people for the purpose of gaining personal favors from racists by deliberately causing non-just to others. Stop name calling, that's number 2. Number 3, stop cursing. Number 4, stop gossiping. Number 5, stop being discourteous. And this is as simple as just don't poke fun at each other, and thinking you're just having a laugh. Just stop all that nonsense. Number 6, stop stealing. Number 7, stop robbing. Number 8, stop fighting. Number 9, stop killing except under conditions of extreme emergency defense and or maximum emergency compensatory action against racism. Number 10, stop squabbling among yourselves and depending on racist white supremacists to settle these squabbles. So, and Dr. Frances Wilson, she added to this list about 7 more things. So you can track that down, that list on this Counter Racist Logic Instagram page if you want to see that list. Oh yeah, it's quite, this is what just doing these type of things can begin to erode the system. And in regards to my closing comments, yeah, I very much enjoy this business meeting. Participating in these business meetings is one of the few things in my existence that bring me what is known to be joy. So yeah, looking forward to the next one. Non-white people, especially people classified as Black, I will continue begging for all of us to work to produce a system of justice until I am no longer able to. So I do not feel shame for having to beg for us to do what needs to be done. Must beg. So please go to, just begin to attempt to counter racism in your own way. Counteringrws.com. If you don't want to spend any money, just go to counteringrws.com. Just attempt. But we'll see you all very soon. CRWS. Today is, let me get this date actually in the broadcast. Today's March 27th, 2022, as we have been led to believe by racist men and racist women who control everything, including time, calendars. So see you all very soon. Thanks for, oh yeah, again, please share this information if you can, please share.